I awoke in terror as the roar of bulldozers shattered the stillness of my private island. Without my permission, the Homeowners Association, HOA, had descended to install 172 solar panels, turning my sanctuary into an industrial wasteland. What would you do when an overzealous HOA president and her allies transform your paradise into a nightmare? Leaping from bed, I felt the ground tremble as my windows rattled. Outside, yellow bulldozers tore through my garden fence. My pulse quickened as I dashed onto the porch in my pajamas. "Stop! What are you doing on my land?" I shouted. The workers ignored me, uprooting my flower beds and toppling the young trees I'd planted last autumn. Grabbing my phone, I called the police. "There are people with bulldozers destroying my yard," I exclaimed. "Sir, we've already heard from the Lakeview Heights HOA," the officer replied. "They have permits for this work." 6 months earlier, I'd purchased this private island home, drawn by its promise of tranquility. Though linked to the mainland by a narrow bridge, my deed explicitly designated the island as my private property. Dressing quickly, I strode across my ravaged lawn to confront the person in charge. A woman in a tailored suit stood beside a sleek SUV, ticking items off a clipboard. "Excuse me, what's happening here?" I demanded. She glanced up, her expression tinged with irritation. "Mr. Carter, I presume? I'm Lillian Grayson, president of the Lakeview Heights HOA. Why are bulldozers ruining my garden?" I pressed. Lillian's smile was cold, devoid of warmth. "We've authorized the installation of 172 solar panels along your eastern shore for the community's benefit." Struggling to remain composed, I replied, "This is my private island. You can't just—" "Actually, we can," she interrupted, producing a document from her bag. "Section 8, Paragraph 12 of the covenant you signed grants the association access rights to waterfront properties for community enhancements." My stomach sank. I recalled signing a stack of papers at closing, assured by my attorney that all was routine. "I want to see that covenant again," I insisted. "Visit the HOA office anytime," she said icily. But the work proceeds. A second bulldozer demolished my gazebo, where I'd savored morning coffee watching the sunrise, as workers marked spots for concrete foundations. I contacted my real estate lawyer, Daniel Pierce, who promised immediate action. "Don't sign anything else," he cautioned. That evening, I sat on my battered porch as floodlights illuminated the ongoing construction, obliterating my serene lake view. My neighbor across the lake, Clara Hensley, a widow who'd resided in Lakeview Heights for decades, arrived by boat. "I came as soon as I heard," she said, stepping onto my dock. "This isn't right. Can they do this?" "It's my property," I replied. Clara sighed. Lillian's rewritten many rules since becoming president 3 years ago. The solar project was her campaign promise, but we assumed it'd be on the community center roof. "Why my island?" I asked. "It gets the best sunlight," she said, then paused. "Lillian tried to buy this island last year, but the previous owner refused her." A shiver ran through me. This felt personal. The next morning, Daniel called, his tone grave. "The covenant includes that clause, but it's suspicious. It appears recently amended. I'll verify with county records." I approached the construction site, where workers unloaded metal frames. "Where's MS. Grayson?" I asked. "Board meeting at the community center," one replied without looking up. Opting for my boat over the bridge, I arrived at the large lakeside building. Inside, about 40 neighbors listened as Lillian addressed them. "The solar initiative will cut electric bills by roughly 35% and secure state green community tax benefits," she explained. I slipped into a back seat. A man inquired, "I thought the panels were going on the community center. When did this change?" "Engineering surveys found the roof here inadequate," Lillian replied smoothly. "Mr. Carter's island offers 40% more sunlight, making it optimal." Standing, I interjected, "Did anyone ask me or show me this survey?" Silence fell as eyes turned to me. Lillian's expression hardened. "Mr. Carter, we welcome homeowners to meetings, but please wait for recognition." A woman with impeccable blonde hair and oversized sunglasses rose. "Point of order, Lillian. New homeowners need orientation," she said, offering me a menacing smile. "I'm Vanessa Brooks, HOA Vice President. This is an adjustment, but you'll appreciate our community-first approach. By community-first, you mean seizing my private property without consent? I retorted. Her smile persisted. The covenant you signed grants certain rights. Perhaps you should have read it more thoroughly. Several attendees shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke. This meeting concerns the budget, not revisiting settled issues, Lillian declared. Security, escort Mr. Carter out if he disrupts protocol. A burly guard approached. To avoid a scene, I left, noting Clara and a few others watching sympathetically. Back home, the first concrete foundations were set. Daniel called again. The clause was amended, but it required 75% homeowner approval and state registration, neither of which I can confirm. Hope flickered. So the project's illegal? It's murky, he warned. They might claim verbal consent or lost records. We need more proof. That evening, a knock startled me. Clara stood there, whispering, I shouldn't be here, but Lillian's husband owns the installation company, and Vanessa's brother handles maintenance contracts. My mind raced. Clear conflicts of interest. Be careful, she added. The last person to challenge Lillian found his boat vandalized and faced unique fines. As she departed, more trucks delivered steel frames and glass panels. Tomorrow, 172 solar panels would line my once pristine shore. What if I physically stopped them? 2 weeks later, the solar array was complete, 172 panels glinting in the sun, glaring into my living room each afternoon and blinking with maintenance lights at night. I pursued legal avenues, filing county complaints, speaking at HOA meetings, and hiring an inspector who identified code violations. Nothing shifted. Your inspection's invalid, Lillian told me over the phone. Our contractors are certified green specialists. At the community pool, neighbors avoided me, though one whispered her son lost privileges after her husband questioned fees, then hurried away. At the next meeting, armed with my deed and ordinances, Vanessa interrupted. The community needs sustainable energy. Your selfishness disappoints us, especially since we overlooked your boathouse's height violation. Unaware of that issue, I realized they were scrutinizing my property for leverage. That night, a certified letter imposed $200 daily fines for unapproved landscaping, my replanted flower beds. Sleepless, I rummaged through my grandfather's old books, discovering a leather journal. A botanist, he noted that hybrid poplars and empress trees, fast-growing at 8 to 12 feet yearly, could form natural privacy screens. An idea took root. Visiting Clara, whose cottage boasted a stunning garden, I shared my plan. Trees to block the panels? She grinned. I've got hybrid poplars and empress trees in my greenhouse, enhanced with my fertilizer. Will you sell me some? Better. I'll help plant them, she replied. Draining my savings, we loaded 200 seedlings onto my boat, plotting their placement to maximize solar obstruction. That night, I planted in darkness, the loose soil aiding my efforts. After 30 trees, a security guard's flashlight caught me. Late-night gardening, he asked. Cooler now, I said casually. Those look like trees. Decorative shrubs for privacy, I lied. He hesitated. MS. Grayson ordered reports on activity near the panels. My heart dropped, but he softened. My granddad lost his farm to eminent domain. Never felt right. I'm not back here till 2 a.m., 3 more hours. Grateful, I finished by dawn, each sapling a symbol of resistance. Daniel filed a county appeal and contacted the state environmental office about wetland concerns. Then Vanessa pounded on my door. Remove those trees. They violate landscaping rules. Section 5.7 allows native species for erosion control. I countered. After your construction damaged my shore. She glared. The board votes tonight. Expect hefty fines. An anonymous text urged me to check my email, revealing minutes from 2 years ago approving panels for the community center, not my island. At the emergency meeting, I presented this evidence. The board never approved my property, I said. Nor were permits filed. An ex-treasurer confirmed a 75% vote was needed. Chaos ensued as support grew. That night, I slept well, dreaming of towering trees, until a crash woke me. Outside, a crew chainsawed my saplings. Who ordered this latest attack, and how far would I go to protect my haven? 6 months of toil followed. My trees, now 5 feet tall, cast initial shadows over the panels. An HOA email announced an urgent meeting. Lillian, frazzled, declared, "Those trees must go. They're native, erosion preventing," I replied. Vanessa snapped, "They block our $438,000 investment. Oddly high, considering market rates. And isn't Sunk CEO your husband's golf buddy, MS?" Grayson, murmurs rose. An ally, Peter Langston, proposed a tree height restriction, swayed by Lillian's tax break offer. "That needs a 75% vote," I countered. Lillian smirked, rallying proxies and issuing $500 daily fines via yellow notices. An unknown caller whispered, "Don't remove them. Check your email." A PDF revealed Amendment 8.3, private property projects required owner consent and majority approval, absent from my doctored covenant. Confronting Lillian at my home, I played her recorded threats and showed the minutes. "Fraud," I accused. She sneered, "My husband knows every judge." Then Helen Baxter, ex-treasurer, arrived with damning files, forged approvals, and SUNTC kickbacks tied to Lillian's husband, under federal scrutiny. Lillian fled, vowing revenge. That evening, smoke billowed from my trees, HOA workers burning them under false pretenses. I recorded it, calling 911. No permit issued, the fire chief confirmed. Karen's SUV lingered, snapping photos gleefully. Lightning later struck the solar controls, damaging panels. Anonymous evidence, Karen bribing workers, Lillian's signed order, bolstered my case. At an explosive HOA meeting, with the DA and police present, I exposed the fraud. The crowd turned. Karen was detained. 3 months on, the panels were relocated, my trees regrew, and new rules protected privacy. Eating lunch with Clara and Peter, I savored the quiet lake. "One person can change things," Clara said. Justice, like my trees, had flourished with room to grow.